Just so everybody has context, this book is now a documentary. It's called Tactical Empathy. It's really Chris's life. It's Brandon's story as well. The entire Black Swan team and what they do and how their influence has literally impacted the world. But what can you share with us the aha moments that you were having getting to what we now know is tactical empathy, getting to what we now know is these Black Swan techniques, right? The unknown unknowns.
Well, usually, like on a hotline, I can remember a couple of very specific moments because when you imagine a hotline, you imagine being on the phone with somebody who's suicidal, like for extended periods of time.
Yep.
Like hours.
Yeah.
And so at the very beginning of the training, they said, you're limited to 20 minutes. And I remember thinking, and I said, like, 20 minutes? You know, on TV, you're on the phone with people for hours.
Yeah.
And they're like, not only is that the limit, if you're doing it right, it won't take that long. And I'd be like, what do you got to be, really?
Right.
And the astute, practiced, informed application of emotional intelligence is what it was. You know, understanding the nuances, which we now know is neuroscience, but we didn't even have neuroscience then. It's the last century. I'm a last century guy.
Yeah.
And then doing it right, and people would just accelerate.
Yeah.
And I'd be on a call for having said three things, and I'd have a guy go like, wow, man, I'm okay now. And so seeing it work quickly was the biggest thing. And then I started trying to apply it in my personal life and seeing it begin to have some effect. Does it work every time? Nothing works every time.
Right.
It just works more than anything else does. And so then
I
got ready. When I finally got to the hostage negotiation training, I remember they playing tapes of actual sieges, and I thought to myself, I've been doing this for 3 years. I just didn't have a SWAT team outside.
Wow.
So then continued to apply it, you know, and epiphany moments. Probably the biggest epiphany moment on the hotline was after I'd been there for a year and I got evaluated and I was horrible. And that epiphany was that it was a perishable skill and I needed to intentionally, consciously practice. Just doing it is insufficient. You know, if Tiger Woods, if the only thing he ever did was play in tournaments, if he didn't practice all the time, he wouldn't have won any tournament.
Correct.
He practiced more than he played in tournament.
Correct.
Tiger Woods, anybody else, famous. Tiger Woods had a swing coach. He's crushing the majors.
Yep.
And he's still getting coached.
Yep.
So that, and then flash forward several more years, I talked my way into Harvard Law School's negotiation course.
All right, hold on. You talked your way in?
Yeah, well, you know, and ultimately, like a business card that says you're an FBI hostage negotiator is a great way to get introduced.
Yep. True.
It ain't a bad introduction.
No, it ain't.
So I decided that we need to learn from Harvard, and they got an executive education program. You pay, anybody could go. Like, as long as you aren't in jail at the time, you pay the tuition to be there for 3 days. You can go. They don't care who you are. They care if your check clears.
Yep.
And I went up there just for the express purpose. You know, learning was a secondary benefit, but I wanted to stop the head of the program as he walked by me and hand him my card and watch his reaction, which I did. Bob Mnookin, the author of a book called Beyond Winning, the second or third chapter in that is the tension between empathy and assertiveness. It's the best chapter on empathy anybody ever wrote.
Wow.
Every single person that comes into my company, we not only have them read that chapter, but we have them explain it to us.
Give me the name again.
Beyond Winning.
Beyond Winning.
Robert Mnookin, Mnookin, I think is the spelling.
Roger that.
And it's a book about negotiation for lawyers, but that chapter, the tension between empathy and assertiveness, is a cornerstone chapter of all of our training. I mean, we give it to everybody when, the way you get into my company as a negotiation coach now, I'll find a hostage negotiator, I'll give them Beyond Winning, that chapter, I'll give them the Empathy Triad from Daniel Goleman's book, I can't think of the name of it, but the chapter on the empathy triad, and also never split the difference. And then we'll say, you give us a presentation on empathy based on these materials.
Wow.
And if you can understand what Mnookin wrote, what Golan wrote, and what we wrote, then you've got your mind around it.
Wow.
And so I stopped Mnookin at the training and just handed him my business card and waited for him to react. And he was like, oh, okay. And so then we went back and forth, exchanged some ideas. And, I'm willing to admit I resorted to the old style bargaining. I said, can I get 3 seats in your class? Wanting one for me.
Yep.
And he goes, well, I'll give you 1. And so then I went up and I went through as a student. I wasn't a student, but they said, you gotta participate fully. You are not a tourist. You're not a fly on a wall. Mm-hmm. You're going to participate in everything. You're going to do all the writing. You're going to do all the work. You're going to do everything if you go through. And my instructors, Sheila Heen, Doug Stone, co-authors of Difficult Conversations, another great book.
Yeah.
At one point in time, they pulled me off to the side. They go, like, you hostage negotiators, you're doing the exact same thing we are. The stakes are different.
Yep.
But all the dynamics, all the decision-making, all the principles are exactly the same. And I'd hoped that was the case. But when they laid that out for me clearly, I'm like, all right, now we're on to something.
Wow. So we have a 3-day.
Thank you.
We have a 3-day and Voss water.
Oh,
look
at that.
Made it.
Look at these show-offs here.
We made it happen. We were relentless. We were not going to let it go.
Nice.
Chris Voss deserves Voss water. And his last name rhymes with Ross. So Voss and Ross, this was supposed to happen. I just think it was supposed to happen.
It's like the title of a movie.
I think so. Voss Ross. This summer.
Saving the world.
Voss Ross. So was a 3-day kind of thing that you went through?
The initial thing was 3 days. But
Yep.
what I want to do, find out, like their best course is a course they put on between the fall and the spring semester, mm-hmm. which is a period of time at a lot of universities that's almost 2 weeks, 3 weeks long. A lot of students in master's programs, they either go skiing or they pick up a class.
Right.
All day, every day.
Yep.
Law schools, Harvard Law Schools, and all the cluster of universities up there, the law school, the business school, Boston, MIT, they've got an agreement that you can go to classes at the other universities. Mm-hmm. Great sharing agreements. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to go to the law school's winter negotiation course, 13 days, all day, every day, full immersion, and then you 3 hours, 4 hours of homework that night, writing up everything that you did, like total immersion into negotiation. And that's what I wanted to get into.
Yeah, for sure.
The winter course. So I get up there and go through the winter course. Yep. And then, I'm going toe to toe and learning, and it was an incredible experience, and getting coached. And, among the many things that I had tremendous regard for the program, and Mnookin in particular, like they had one exercise that was designed to tempt the law school students to lie. Mm. And and then they spent an entire day on that exercise and out briefing it. And I was horrified and gratified. Because for hostage negotiation, lying is a bad thing. Lying is a really bad idea. If you really understand hostage negotiation, you don't lie.
Yep.
For a variety of reasons. It's a trap. They're going to figure it out. You're going to pay for it. There's no good outcome from lying. Right. So I show up there on the premise that lying is bad. So I'm really gratified that they want to drill that into the students, but I'm horrified that they have to. Mm. And tremendous arguments in the outbrief. Well, fight for your clients, this and that. And Mnookin was adamant. He's like, lying over material fact and simply failing to mention it is lying. It's deception by omission. Says that's fundamentally unethical. And he was adamant that they at least take away that was Harvard's position. Material omissions as an omission of a material fact is fundamentally unethical and in violation of your oath as attorneys. And I was really impressed that he had to drill that in, and then I was frightened at how many students just didn't want to accept it.
Wow.
And I thought, these are the biggest minds. This is the law school on earth. And how many students that are going through here just fundamentally have to grapple with this instead of getting it right away. But, Bob wouldn't let him go.
Yep.
Till he made his point.
Absolutely. Well, I'm this is blowing my mind because I'm just thinking about how that can be applied to everyday life.
Yeah.
Right? That if we lived our lives in a way that said lying is not a part of my entire existence, that even the omission of something is not how I govern my life. How we would have a pure environment if that was everybody's mentality, right? We wouldn't be surprised and like, I didn't even know you thought that, or I didn't know this is the way you thought about this, or you never told me that when we closed this deal. Or so, I mean, it is the fact that had to be taught. I agree with you, man. No, that's kind of shocking that, hey, we got to teach you not to lie and give you the importance of why lying. But then to see how reticent, it's not like you said a couple of guys. The majority of the people were like,
I wouldn't say it was a majority, but there was enough of them. It was definitely a minority, but they were adamant.
Yep. They were trying to even fight for the position. And
the other thing that Bob was really making a point on is, deception by omission. And a lot of people want to say like, well, if what I said was, if I didn't lie. Like we had an informant one time that says, I told you I would never lie, but I never promised to tell you the whole truth. And we were like, no, that ain't the answer.
That ain't it.
Leaving stuff out is not the answer.
Yeah.
And the other thing about lying too, because I think it's an important thing to discuss, because we think about it as inherently malicious or an evil act. Mm-hmm. And a vast majority of lying is defensive in nature. People don't know how to tell the truth. Or they're scared of the consequences. And that's one of the things really in tactical empathy that we want people to get comfortable with. Okay, if you're scared to say it, then that just means two things. You should say it, and you should say it carefully. And here's how you say it carefully. Here's how you soften a blow. Mm-hmm. Human beings are incredibly collaborative and incredibly resilient. Mm-hmm. My co-author, Tall Roz, our co-author, me and Brandon and Tall really wrote the book together. Tall used to say, human beings are hardwired to collaborate because the only cavemen that survived were the ones that collaborated.
That's right.
The dude that wanted to go out on his own, got eaten by the saber-toothed tiger in the middle of the night because he wasn't with a group.
That's right.
So we're hardwired to collaborate to start with, and then we're remarkably resilient. Like if I got something I'm scared to tell you, I should say, you are not going to want to hear this. This is bad news. Instead of, I don't want you to think this is bad news. 2 millimeter shift. Mm-hmm. The denial is the poor way to do it. The calling the elephant out in the room is a good way to do it.
That's right.
And we do that with each other.
Yeah.
Like I get a call from one of my colleagues the other day. He's like, look, man, I've been praying about this. And I'm thinking like, you're going to quit. And there was another issue, but because he warned me that it was so significant that he struggled with it that much, I immediately thought the worst. And then when he gave me the actual news, it was relieved. Like, I can fix this.
Right.
This is easy.
Yeah.
So, but human beings properly warned. It's I'm reading a study not that long ago, way into neuroscience, human performance these days. Huge fan of Andrew Huberman. If you some of the best information out there on human performance and neuroscience. One of his podcasts, he's talking. I think it was Huberman's. He said, like, if a doctor gives you a shot, if the doctor says this isn't going to hurt, I don't want you to think it's going to hurt, and he jabs you with the needle, you're like, hey, doc, you're an idiot.
Exactly. You don't even know what needles feel like.
I'm on my way out the door. You lied to me.
That's exactly right.
But if the doc says this is going to hurt, and then he jabs you, and you go like, it wasn't that bad. The proper warning in advance, human beings and the pain centers from physical pain and emotional pain in the brain are pretty much the same regions. So we react in many ways to physical pain the same way we react to emotional pain. So if I get bad news, we teach people that. If they're not going to like it, tell them they're not going to like it.
Yep.
If you're afraid that it's going to break their hearts, say, this is going to break your heart. I got bad news. And give them anywhere from 1 to 3 seconds, let them brace themselves, hit them with it. And every single time, it's either as bad as they thought it was going to be, which means they were ready, or nowhere near as bad as they thought it was going to be, which means I can solve this right now.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. The documentary, Tactical Empathy.
Mm-hmm.
First time we screen it. We screened it in Vegas. Nick Nanton, Emmy-winning producer, DNA Films, great human being, and great company. We see it in Vegas, and everybody likes it. And I tell them that. Love it, fantastic. Everybody had a great time. Love it. Now, we got the LA screening that you came to.
Yep.
We got the LA screening set up for a month later.
Mm-hmm.
On the Sunday, after I told him 3 days earlier that I loved it, I realized there was a huge flaw that I had to fix. Because we left somebody out that was a critical part of our story and our journey. On a Sunday, now with clocks ticking already, I send Nick a 2-line text. It's now a bad time to talk. You're not going to like what I have to say. Because it's now a bad time to talk. I could have called him.
Right.
He would have took the call.
Right.
But a text message, because I need his undivided attention, and I need him to be braced for bad news because clock's ticking. We got no time.
Yep.
So as it turns out, text message comes right back. I'm in the middle of a Zoom call, which meant it would have been a bad time. And if I'd have called him, he would have answered. It would have interrupted. Both conversations would have been bad. So I need his undivided attention. And I also need him to know that I get bad news. And I lay out to him what the problem is, and he immediately problem solves. He says, all right, we're going to do this, this, and this. I got to get a camera crew out there, or I got to get that person to a camera crew, one way or another. But this is how I'll do it. I mean, he's instantly problem solving on a Sunday afternoon, 3 days after I told him everything was fine. And he lays it all out and goes, done. He says, and we got less than 3 weeks. So we got an hour of film, but an hour of film is almost 3 weeks of editing. So, but we'll get it done. We'll get it in under the wire. Done. Finished. Over. And then afterwards, not as a condition, but I'm very much into reciprocity and returning favors for people who've done big favors for me. I still owe Nick Nanton in a big way. He says, very next day, I got a group of investors together. I'd love for you to come and talk to them. You got it. Rearranged all my flight schedules. I was supposed to be in Chicago, leave for Chicago the next day. I'm like, all right, I'll talk. We got to do it by this time. I got to get on a plane. I call my assistants, change all my flights. You might not make it. Doesn't matter. I got to be there for Nick because Nick has been there for me. Yeah. This all sprung from a conversation that once we got on the phone was less than 5 minutes.
Wow.
To solve a monumental problem that was going to cost him a lot of money. But because we got a great relationship and of generosity back and forth, bang, we hit it.
So thank you for sharing that. That is a great context of applying the techniques that you write in the book in like a very practical way. This is one of the things about the book, Chris, that I rave about to everybody, because I'm low key an evangelist for you. Like I tell everybody, I really do.
Does he do anything low key?
No, well, I guess it's high key then. I don't know. I'm using a phrase, and I guess
I'm a subtle guy.
Well, honestly,
those glasses, right? I mean, stylish. You're very definitely out there.